Good evening, friends. Welcome to the next virtual coaching session. We are going to have a discussion on today's evening on paper 8 dealing with your registration under GST law. So, this topic, registration under GST law, at best you can have a question set for 6 to 8 marks in your examination. More than examination, I would look at this chapter as a core area where our interaction with the department, the assessor's point of contact with the department starts with this particular area called registration under GST law. Now, more than an examination perspective, let us look for this particular topic, how it will help an assessee, how it will help us in practice. Assuming if we join a corporate world, what sort of registrations are permissible under GST law? As a registered person, what is the responsibility on me for obtaining registration? Like if you think of GST law, there is something called regular registration, composition registration, ISD registration, casual taxable person registration, NRTP registration. So, this particular topic, what we have under today's discussion, is very, very important for us to visualize and understand what is expected by the lawmaker when we are doing our business activity. So, with this backdrop, let us get into our main discussion for today. Just I wanted to have a confirmation from you. Hope you are able to see my screen and also you are able to hear me. If anyone has any technical issue, you can put into the question window so that I can understand with respect to this audio, video, or even the presentation. Any of these things require any correction or attention, I would be giving a focus on that. So far, no questions have come. Raman says good evening. Yes, Raman, good evening. Okay. Now, let us start with our today's discussion. First, to start with, under GST registration, we have couple of definitions. We will try to understand what is the relevance of definitions for understanding this core topic called registration. Then we will have a couple of examples to have a in-depth analysis of this particular chapter from examination point of view, from practice point of view. Always keep in mind the moment you say you're doing your CA, either it is intermediate or final, always there is an expectation from the family, expectation from the friends, expectation from the society. You know everything under the sun in relation to income tax, in relation to indirect taxation. So people do come in, ask you, yeah, I have this petrol bunk. I have been doing business, and I also have some small business where I Okay, okay, okay. Yes, friends. Sorry for the technical issues. We are back on live with this presentation. Couple of technical issues are there. Sorry for that. So let us start with our discussion. What we have started with registrations under GST. We have various registrations, as I have mentioned. We have regular registration, ISD registration. I have composition registration. I have casual taxable person. I also have non-residential taxable person. So these are the various registrations I have under the GST law, where we will take a couple of examples for us to understand what is important for us, to learn from this particular topic for the day. Along with this, what is that we have to learn from our examination point of view. Students who are watching me, please drop in a message in this question window. You are able to hear me and you are also able to see my screen. It will be helpful for me to go further with the discussion for today. If someone of you can put a confirmation on my question window, it will be easier for me to understand and go ahead with the flow of the discussion. Let me wait for a couple of people to confirm the activity. I can see that Raman says, good evening. Raman says no audio. Hemant says no voice. Can you confirm now? Are you able to hear me and are you able to see me properly? Yeah, Jay, I think, Jay, I can hear your voice. Hello? Yeah. Students, can someone put a confirmation with respect to this presentation and my audio? Hello? Yeah. I can see Raman saying that yes, and Ravi also has confirmed all fine. Hemant also has confirmed. Okay, yeah, good to go ahead. Thanks for confirmation, Raman, Ravi, and Hemant. Now coming back to today's topic, we will have a couple of examples for us to understand what is the relevance of these particular GST provisions. Various aspects of our registrations are to be understood. So we'll understand what is a registration. We will also understand what is a procedure for registration. We will see what are the amendments to be done in a registration. Now, this procedure for registration, as you see the name, it's a procedural aspect. It's a procedural aspect. So we will focus more on the technicalities and the conceptual aspects of this registration. Then we have cancellation of registration. This is one hardcore topic as of today. For those all suppliers who have taken a registration, but they have failed to file their returns under GST law. So this is one important aspect with respect to cancellation. When a proper officer or when a GST officer can do the cancellation of registration. Then we have something called revocation of cancellation of registration. Now this is a technical term. Revocation is once an activity has been done or once a notice has been issued, how do we cancel back? How does the officer take back his particular order or a particular direction? This is called revocation. Then finally, we have this summarizing the relevant points. So what we'll do, we will try to have a detailed understanding of the important aspects, whatever we have discussed till now. We will study all these particular important aspects. Now, to start with, we have the first definition called agent. Agent under GST law. Now, this particular term, agent, I have seen that Leela, Yashoda, Sumit have confirmed. Geet also has confirmed. Thanks for your confirmation here. Now, the first particular definition is called agent. First particular definition called agent. Now, this term agent is very important from registration point of view. Reason, it has got multifaceted. Nuances of this particular registration aspect. Let us understand the term definition of agent, which says agent means a person, including a factor, broker, commission agent, arhita, del creditor agent, auctioneer, or any other mercantile agent
by whatever name you call, who carries on the business of supply of receipt of goods or services or both on behalf of another. Important aspect you see, this fellow is carrying out a business. What is a business? Receipt, supply of receipt of goods. He is supplying the goods or he is receiving the goods on behalf of another. So this particular agent, this fellow is he is a person who is receiving the goods or he is supplying the goods. So this fellow is doing this activity of supply on behalf of another. So here we need to remember something called Contract Act, principal agent. There is a contract between two persons where one person is representing another person as a principal to agent. Now here please understand this term. Please understand this term agent. The person who is supplying or receiving the goods on behalf of another person, that fellow is called as an agent. How is relevant? For the purpose of GST law, all the turnover, all the transactions of the agent will be considered for the purpose of registration. Now here, important aspects of person. Person is an individual, HUF, LLP, anything. This person is carrying out the business of supply. This activity of supply, he is receiving the goods or is giving a service. It is not on his account. It is on behalf of the principal. So this is how it is important for the definition called agent. Now, aggregate turnover. This is a hardcore topic which we need to understand. Many of the time, examination, you'll have one problem. In the examination, you'll have one problem from this particular topic called GST registration, where they expect you to do the calculation of your aggregate turnover. Why? My registration under GST law, is linked with my aggregate turnover. So they say, whenever you have an aggregate turnover exceeding a particular threshold limit, you need to get registered under GST law. So we need to understand this definition of aggregate turnover thoroughly from registration, filing of annual returns, then audit perspective. So this is one term we use many occasions wherever this aggregate turnover is referred to. So as of now, for us to understand, this term aggregate turnover says aggregate value. It says aggregate value. What is that aggregate value? Aggregate value of, so they are using the term called aggregate value. What is my aggregate value? Aggregate value is a summation. I need to do the summation of all taxable supply, exempt supply, exports. So whenever they refer to this term called aggregate turnover, it's a summation, it's an addition of taxable supply. What is a taxable supply? Whenever there is a supply, again, the term supply, we have covered our chapter on supply section 7, where the faculty has taken you through widely to understand what all aspects are covered in this term called supply. So whenever there is a sale of goods, whenever there is a rendering of services on which I have paid tax, that is called as my taxable supply. So whenever there is a taxable supply, whenever I have exempt supply, or whenever I have exports. So taxable supply, we all understand that a supply where tax is applicable. Exempt supply, because of an exemption notification, I need not pay GST. Third element is called exports. Now, I draw attention to most of you who are listening to me to this term called export of goods or services. Please understand this term export of goods or services. It is not exempted turnover. When I say export of goods or services, it is nothing but it is a taxable supply. Because I am making an export, the rate of tax is 0. As per the GST law, IGST Act, Section 16. I repeat, reference to my IGST Act, Section 16, it says, wherever you supply the goods out of India, whenever you supply the goods or services to a SEZ unit or developer, then this particular term, export of goods or services will be called as zero rated supply. When I say zero rated supply, it is not that because rate of tax is 0, it is exempt. No, absolutely not. I cannot have a tax on exports. That is the reason they call zero rated supply. It is a taxable supply categorized as a exports. So why is that we need to give importance on this? Reason when you move on to your bifurcation, when you take your P&L account, when you take your financials, it is important for you to understand what should I consider for the purpose of aggregate turnover, what should not I consider for the purpose of aggregate turnover. Now, important aspect, interstate supply of person having the same PAN to be computed on all India basis. Now here, if you see your definition, they're saying that my term of aggregate turnover includes 1, taxable supply, exempt supply, export of goods, interstate supply of person having same PAN. Now, this is nothing but my stock transfer. Sir, I'm registered in the state of Maharashtra. I have my branch in Karnataka. From Maharashtra, I did a stock transfer to my branch in Karnataka for goods worth 20 lakhs. Can I consider, should I need to consider for my aggregate turnover? Because they say aggregate value. They're saying that it is nothing but aggregate of 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is what they're saying. So I have to include my taxable value. I have to include my exempt supply. I also have to include my exports. I also need to have something called interstate supply stock transfer. All these 4 put together, my stock transfer, my exports, my exempt supply, and my taxable supply. All these 4 comprises together called aggregate turnover. So when I take my audited financials, when I take my signed financials, whenever there is a stock transfer, I don't record my stock transfer in my audited financials. When I report my P&L account, when I look into my P&L account, my P&L account has got only sales to the outside party. Does it have inter-unit stock transfer? It does not have. So my recommendation to you is, whenever you have been given with financials, don't judge the registration. Don't judge this particular concept blindly looking into your financials. I would recommend you go through this particular aspects to calculate something called aggregate turnover. Now, coming back to my next term, aggregate turnover is something which is helpful for me to determine whether I should register or not. Next is your exempt supply. Just now we have seen something called exempt supply. Let us understand in depth what is my exempt supply. Please, this particular term exempt supply is very, very important. Reason, examination, one question for 6 marks, whatever you're going to expect. One adjustment with respect to this term exempt supply is going to be there. So this term exempt supply has to be carefully understood. Now, the term exempt supply means supply of any goods or services. Supply of any goods or services. Now, supply. There should be a supply of goods. There should be a supply of services, or both. Those supply which attracts nil rate of tax. So whenever I make a supply which has got a rate of tax called nil rate of tax. So this is one thing which can be called as an exempt supply, or which may be wholly exempt. So whenever there is a supply of goods or supply of services, it is having a nil rate of tax or it is wholly exempt. So nil rate of tax, when I look into my tariff, the rate of tax shown is nil. When I look into my HSN classification, the rate of tax is mentioned as nil. That's called nil rated. Wholly exempt. By virtue of an exemption notification, my activity has been defined to be an exempt activity. One example. Sir, I have interest income. I have rental income. Income from a rental activity which is given for a residential purpose. Under the GST law, any rent which you receive from a residential activity, it is not taxable. It is exempted. Now, is it a taxable activity? Answer is yes, it is taxable. By way of an exemption notification, they have given a relaxation not to pay GST on your rental income. So please understand, whenever we are referring to this term called exempt supply, this term exempt supply is referring to a particular supply which is either nil rate of tax or which is wholly exempt. These two. Now, this exemption under Section 11 or under Section 6 of IGST Act. Now, important and includes non-taxable supply. Includes non-taxable supply. Now, what is non-taxable supply? Before next definition, means supply of goods or services or both. Supply of goods or services or both, which is not leviable to tax. Now, sir, what is not leviable to tax? Now, when we read our Section 9, in Section 9, which talks about your levy, sir, we have covered Section 7, which talks about your supply. We also have understood something called Section 9. In Section 9, where they say, supply of petroleum crude, high-speed diesel, motor spirit, then alcoholic liquor for human consumption. Now, these are the activities which is kept outside the levy of my GST law. That means to say, under Section 9, they have brought something like, if you refer to Section 9, subsection 1, where they say, there shall be levied a tax called CGST on all intrastate supply of goods and services or both, except on the supply of alcoholic liquor for human consumption. They say supply of alcoholic liquor for human consumption is a supply. Under 9(1), except they have used. So when I refer to my GST law, when I refer to my Section 9, which talks about levy, those activity which are kept outside the levy is called non-taxable supply. So as of now, friends, please bear in mind for your examination point of view, wherever we refer to this term called non-taxable supply, alcoholic liquor for human consumption, petrol, diesel or HSD, these two activities are kept outside my levy. So these are the two activities which are kept outside 9, which is called non-taxable supply. Now, friends, please bear in mind, whenever I look into this particular term called exempt supply, whenever we refer to this term called exempt supply, this exempt supply includes something called non-taxable supply. You see my screen? My exempt supply includes non-taxable supply. For a moment, I'll go back to my screen. I'll go back to my Excel file to show you a couple of examples for better understanding. Let me know if you are able to see my Excel file. If you are able to see my Excel file, please let me know. Let me start typing here. Hope you are all able to see my Excel file. Let me get a confirmation from you. Please confirm, are you able to see the Excel file? Once you confirm, you can see, I'll go ahead, ma. Meanwhile, let me take one question. There's one question from Padmanabhan. Padmanabhan says, is there a difference between nil rate of tax and zero rate of tax? Okay. Fantastic question. There's one question from Padmanabhan where he says, is there a difference where the rate of tax is mentioned as nil, where the rate of tax is mentioned as zero? Now, please bear in mind, when I look into my tariff, which tariff? The notification 1 of 2017. I repeat, when I look into my excise tariff, GST tariff, there is a notification called 1 of 2017. For each item based on your HSN, they have given what is the rate of tax. The rate of tax is either mentioned as nil or zero. I repeat, my rate of tax is mentioned as NIL, nil or -0. Both are exempted activity. Both are exempted activity. When the rate of tax is mentioned as 0, it is deemed that it is an exempted supply. However, it is not my section 16, which is called zero rated supply. Now, when we go to this section 16, they say all exports out of India shall be considered as zero rated supply. Now, please bear in mind, wherever the rate of tax is mentioned as 0, it is as good as exempted supply. Now, hope I have clarified your point, Padmanabhan. Now, I have received confirmation from Yashoda, Anjali and Geeta saying that, yes, you are able to see my Excel file. Now, I have few activities captured here. I would say this is supply. Now, let us determine whether it is a taxable or zero rated or non-GST or exempt. Now, sale of garments. Now it is taxable. Sir, I'm not paying any tax on garments which are purchased whose value is less than 500 rupees, whose value is less than 1000 rupees. Please keep in mind, for garments, the rate of tax is given as, say, 5%, 12%. They have also mentioned any garments which are sold whose price is less than 1000 rupees. They have given an exemption saying that rate of tax is nil. So, my sale of garments is taxable by virtue of certain conditions. That is, when the value, sale price is less than 1000, then it is exempt. Now, sir, if I have my sale of garments, now I'll put it this way: taxable, exempt. On the left hand side, we will do aggregate turnover at a later point in time. Now, taxable, say I have, I'll put the amount in rupees in lakhs. Now, taxable activity, I have 100 lakhs, and exempt activity, I have to say 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs. Sale of petrol and diesel. Now, sale of petrol and diesel, just now we have discussed. Now, sale of petrol and diesel under section 9, it is kept outside my levy. So, I'll call this as non-taxable. Services rendered for construction activity. Now, is it taxable? Yes, it is taxable. Then, now let me put the figures also for this. Now, I would say sale of petrol and diesel, 25 lakhs. Services rendered, I'll put a figure of 12 lakhs. Now, next, I have exports to say Japan. Now, any exports, we will call that as say assuming 25 lakhs I have exported exempted and 15 lakhs worth exempted. Now, I call this as zero rated supply. Because it is export out of India, I call under section 16 of IGST Act as my zero rate supply. Very important. Salary from employment. Say I have received salary from employment, say 20 lakhs. Now, question comes here. Can we call that as taxable? Can I call zero rate? Can I call non-GST? Can I call exempt? Now, please refer. There is something called Schedule 3. Schedule 1, Schedule 2, Schedule 3. Schedule 1 to CGST Act, which says supplies where there is no consideration. When we read our chapter on supply, section 7, under section 7, whenever there is a supply without a consideration, as per Schedule 1, it shall be called as a deemed supply, like your stock transfer. goods transfer from one unit to another branch, one branch to another branch. By virtue of my Schedule 1, it is called as, though there is no consideration, it is a supply. Schedule 2, where once an activity is confirmed as a supply, I come to my schedule number 2 to say, is it supply of goods? Is it supply of services? Schedule number 3, it says all below transactions are not to be considered as supply of goods, not to be considered as supply of services, not a supply of goods, not a supply of services. So this term salary from employment is covered under Schedule 3. So it is, sir, can I call that as taxable? No, it is not taxable. Sir, can I call zero rated? I'll say no, not a zero rated. Sir, can I call non-GST? No, non-GST, sir, is it because it is not coming under levy? Now, please keep in mind, non-taxable. When I say non-GST, it is non-taxable supply. Non-taxable supply as per section 9, where my levy itself has kept outside. As per now, non-GST, non-taxable or is only two aspects. One is liquor, second is petrol and diesel. Only these two aspects are out of my section 9. All my schedule 3 does not come into my 9 itself. Sir, can you call as a supply? I would say it is not a supply. Reason, when I look into my schedule 3, it says not to be considered a supply of goods, not to be considered a supply of services. The moment I say it is not a supply of goods, not supply of services, it does not come into my aggregate turnover. Please keep in mind, when I calculate my aggregate turnover, this Schedule 3 transactions will not form part of my aggregate turnover. Reason, my aggregate turnover only 4 levels. Taxable, it is not taxable. Exempt, only when it is taxable, I can give an exemption. So it is not exempt. It should be export. I have Schedule 3, which is not exported. Salary done in India. Fourth one is your interstate supply, branch transfer, stock transfer. My salary is not falling into any of these 4 elements. So it does not come into my aggregate turnover calculation. Salary from employment. Now, friends, if you ask of aggregate turnover, sum of my taxable activity plus sum of my exempt activity, all put together 192 lakhs. This is how I do the computation of my aggregate turnover. Please keep in mind, Schedule 3 transactions I don't do for my aggregate turnover purpose. Now let us go back to our presentation. Yeah. So this term non-taxable supply, when we are referring to, please keep in mind, this does not include your Schedule 3 transactions. Now, this is what we need to understand. Yeah, there's one question. Padmanabhan says, all zero rate supplies are export supplies. Yes, Padmanabhan. Yes. Now, moving on further. Agriculturalist. This is one important aspect which is important for us to keep in mind. People who are staying in North India, now you could have seen that there is a lot of issues are going on with respect to this bill, which was brought on the Agriculturalist with respect to a couple of provisions made with respect to MSP and other income tax provisions. This particular term, agriculturalist, is very, very important from that particular backdrop. What it says, agriculturalist means a person, an individual or a HUF. They have said only individual or HUF who undertakes a cultivation of land. Now, please bear in mind, in India, agricultural land can be owned either by individual or HUF. That's the reason they say any land which is held by an individual or HUF for what? Who undertakes cultivation. This cultivation is done by own labor, by family, or controlled under the supervision of the individual or the family members. So cultivation is done by self, by the family members, or by hired labor under the supervision of individual or HUF. This is one activity which is kept outside my registration under GST law. So if at all have any income from the CTP. Now, some definition, very, very important. Examination, probably 2 marks adjustment you can expect from CTP. Now, this term CTP Hope you are able to see my PowerPoint presentation. Just put into query window so that I can get a confirmation that you are able to see from Excel this PowerPoint presentation. Okay. Now, this term casual taxable person, it says a person who occasionally undertakes transaction involving supply of goods or services. Now, important, a person occasionally undertaking, not regular. A person is not regularly undertaking, is occasionally undertaking what? Involving transaction involving supply of goods or services or both in the course or furtherance of business. Now, always look at the language in the course or furtherance of business. What is that? In the course of my business, I'm extending, I'm expanding, I'm improving my business. Whenever there is a transaction which includes a supply, that supply is done on an occasional basis. Whether as a principal or agent, in a state or union territory where he has no fixed place of business. In red color, very, very important for you to understand. Now, this particular definition says, Now, Yashoda has confirmed you're able to see PowerPoint. Thanks for confirming, Yashoda. This term CTP says a person who's undertaking, who's occasionally, not a regular basis, a person who's doing a business activity. Now, business for what? Supply of goods, supply of services. In that particular state or union territory, he has no fixed place of business. What do you mean by fixed place of business? A place where there is a permanence, there is a regular, like you stay in that particular place, you occupy that particular place, you stay in that place on a regular basis as a owner, as a landlord. Now, I don't stay there on a regular basis. I don't stay on a rental basis. I stay occasionally in a particular place of business. For what? For undertaking a business activity. Then you will be called as a casual taxable person. I'll give an example. Sir, I have my forefathers, I have my fathers who are into textile business. Now, as a part of this business expansion, what I felt, let me do a business venture. I'll take this particular textiles, say I'm having our forefather business in Rajasthan. From Rajasthan, I'll carry some of the material to the state of Maharashtra, to the state of UP. There, I would like to hire a particular, say this, what you call chowdhury, this marriage hall or event hall. I'll take an event hall, I'll hire it for 10 days, I'll put this particular textile. I'll say Rajasthani handlooms. The moment they see the Rajasthani handlooms, people have that affection that the material of this textile will be having some perfection or some speciality. So the moment they see that, they will be willing to buy the material. Now, this particular state where I don't have a fixed place, then you shall be called as your casual taxable person. Casual. So please keep in mind, any of the business person who does a business activity in a state or union territory, occasionally, where he doesn't have a place of business, you will be called as a casual taxable person. Now, what is a fixed establishment? Now, we have read something called a state or where we don't have a fixed place of business. Similar to that is your fixed establishment. Now, this is one particular term which has been coined under the GST law, fixed establishment. So they say, look, this is a particular place which is characterized, which is identified, where there is a suitable identification where people stay over there for a particular business activity, for doing a particular supply of services to receive or give services. I'll give an example. So there is a marriage which needs to be done. Now, when someone wants to do marriage, these days we have something called destination marriages, where people travel with family members out of the city, where or receiving services. Like as an event manager, when I do that particular thing, there are people who does the catering of food. There are people who give the supply of some bed sheets or some clothing, etc. on a temporary basis, rental basis. Now, all those are services received, services given. Now, this is a term called fixed establishment. It is more linked with your CTP also. Next is your NRTP. NRTP, non-resident taxable person. 2 marks, one question adjustment from NRTP you can expect. It says a person who occasionally undertakes, a person, as we say, a person who is a non-resident Indian, that fellow who is occasionally doing an activity of supply of goods or services, whether as principal or agent in any other capacity, but who has no fixed place of business or residence in India. So that fellow, NRTP, who has come into India for the purpose of giving a service. I'll give an example. So there is a Japanese company. There's one fellow who has come from Japan, who acts as a mediocre, means who translates my Japan to English, Japan to say Marathi, Japan to Urdu, Japan to various languages. That fellow has come as a translator from Japan. He was there in a particular company to do a translation activity for a business deal, and that fellow goes back. When that fellow has come into India and who has stayed for a period of say 10 days or 15 days, and he did some activity in India, that fellow will be called as NRTP. Why? That fellow is giving a supply. He is giving a supply of goods or he is giving a supply of services. So can you say all the goods which are imported from Russia, from China, from Japan, from Tokyo, all this from America, can you call that those people are called NRTP? Answer is no. The supply should have been done in India. Then you will hold that particular person as a NRTP for the purpose of your registration. Now, this is something which we need to keep in mind. Turnover in a state. This is one definition which is carved out of your aggregate turnover. Please keep in mind, my aggregate turnover, what we have read just now, that is a replicate for turnover in state. What it says, all aggregate of taxable supply, exempt supply, exports, interstate supply made from a state. Now, these are some basic definitions which are important for us to understand before we get into the main topic. Now, First example. Now, this is something which we have discussed, but again, let us have more clarity with respect to this particular concept of registration. Mr. X, an individual, is residing in the state of Maharashtra. This X has approached you with a below information where he says, please confirm whether I have to take a GST registration. He says, my income from salary is 120 lakhs. My income from salary is 120 lakhs. So he has given a details for a particular financial year. Income from rental income. Now, before we go for the second point, please keep in mind, salary is covered under Schedule 3. Whenever I refer to Schedule 3, that Schedule 3 is not forming part of my aggregate turnover. Whenever I do calculation of aggregate turnover, this Schedule 3 is kept outside. My aggregate turnover has got four elements, taxable, exempted, zero rated, interstate supply of a person having same PAN. What is this element? My Schedule 3. Schedule 3 is kept out of my income from salary. Please keep away. Please keep in mind definition of goods, definition of services. I repeat, definition of goods, definition of services. These two definitions, aggregate turnover, first limb, taxable. Yes, sir, I'll add this. Money received on behalf of principal for supply undertaken, 50 lakhs. Please keep in mind, this piece is, I have received 50 lakhs into my bank account. The same 50 lakhs was debited again from my bank account. See, I have received 50 lakhs. I have paid back my 50 lakhs. Why? I'm an agent. That is not my money. My principal said, you take the delivery of those goods and you give a delivery to that fellow. Collect that money and you pay it back to me. Now, this is the entire crux of my sales tax. Under sales tax, supply from any supply on behalf of principal was not subjected to sales tax by principal to agent. When goods are sent from principal to agent, the goods which are received by agent are not subjected to sales tax. Reason, what they say? Reason, because these goods are principal to agent, it is not a supply. There is no transfer of ownership. There is no transfer of title in goods. It is not subjected to sales tax. But that entire concept was made as a big zero under GST. What they say, any supply undertaken either as a principal or agent, that shall be considered as your supply. So here, friends, please keep in mind, all my money received on behalf of the goods or services rendered on behalf of my principal shall form part of my aggregate turnover. So here I have to add that particular 50 lakhs to my aggregate turnover. Income from bank fixed deposit, we have read some chapter called exemption. Under exemption, we have read that this particular activity of interest income is taxable activity under the GST law. Now, this particular definition we need to keep in mind. When I do the calculation of this particular aggregate turnover, how we need to visualize, how we need to break the given information from my definition of aggregate turnover. Next, point number 4, very important practical example. Now, this particular example says ABC Limited, a company who has obtained a registration in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. They undertake below works in the state of Uttar Pradesh. Now they are coming to you saying that, look, we are already registered in Jammu and Kashmir. Should we need to get registered in any other state for below information? Laying of a pipeline in the local municipality for a sum of rupees 150 lakhs. This company, ABC Limited, who are already registered in Jammu and Kashmir, now they have come for a work to be done in the state of Uttar Pradesh. So they did a pipeline work. That pipeline work value of 150 lakhs. Can I call this fellow as a CTP? Answer is yes. A person, ABC Limited, who doesn't have fixed place of business in the state of Uttar Pradesh is undertaking the activity of what? Supply of this service. Where? Uttar Pradesh. Was it done on a regular basis? No, it is on an occasional basis. I got a contract over there. I went, did the work, came back. So it's called temporary. CTP is triggered over there. Participated in a trade exhibition in the state of Bihar. Now, this is an extension of the same example. ABC Limited, who is registered in Jammu and Kashmir, that fellow came to the state of Bihar. He participated in a trade exhibition. In that trade exhibition, he has displayed his material. So there was a customer who was interested to buy the material. The customer said, okay, I'm willing to buy this material worth 30 lakhs. In the state of in the trade exhibition. Now, please understand, when material were exhibited in the state of Bihar and the goods were interested to be purchased by the buyer in this particular aspect, will it be considered as a supply from the state of Jammu and Kashmir, or will it be considered as an activity? Will it be considered as an activity of CTP, casual taxable person, in the state of Jammu and Kashmir? Now, please keep in mind, this is a multifaceted question. Can I register in the state of Jammu and Kashmir? Can I charge GST from Jammu and Kashmir? No. Should I register in the state of Bihar, then charge GST on this particular amount? This is what they're asking. Now, these are the couple of questions which we need to keep in mind before we understand our concept of registration. So, friends, I made, there is one, Raman says, sir, class stop. No, Raman. Raman, we are at example number 4. Let me hear from other people. Others, can you confirm? Are you able to see the screen? Others, please confirm. Are you able to see the screen? Are you able to hear me? Raman says in between there are a couple of glitches. Okay, I understand. Technical issues, Raman. We'll try to get it back. Okay, Raman says now it is going on. Thanks for confirming, Raman. So, friends, now these are the couple of examples which are important for our main GST provisions. Now, first point, let me slide important. Along with the GST law, this article 279, this is one of the important article 279A, which deals with your GST council. How a GST council will be formulated, what are the roles and responsibility of the council, what are the responsibility of the states. Now they have given some special importance to some states called special category states. So under Article 279A of the Constitution, Clause 4, these are the 11 states which were called as special category states. Lot of debate, lot of fight happened. Lot of jugglery said, no, please include our state. Like from South India, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. Telangana is one state which has fought very vehemently, saying that please add our Telangana also as a special category status. Why? Being a special category status, there are certain incentives which were expected to be given to this particular states. Now, please keep in mind, this is only for your constitutional amendment point of view. Now, for the purpose of GST, what we need to read, as of now in your syllabus, there are only 4 states: Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, Tripura. MTMN. It's a shortcut we call MTMN. Manipur, Mani, Mizoram, Ram, Nagaland, Land, Tripura, tribe. As of now, for the purpose of my section 22, which talks about GST registration, they say there are only 4 states. Which we call as special category states. Why? Registration threshold limit. Now, all other states say, no, we are going to lose revenue. So let us get out of the special category status. All these other out of 11, 7 states say, whichever we have striked off, Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Jammu and Kashmir, etc. These are the states voluntarily they've recommended the council, please exclude us. Reason, the moment you bring into special category states, my revenue collections have gone down. So that is one thing which we need to keep in mind. So friends, from your examination point of view, whenever we refer for the purpose of GST law, there are only 4 special category states. What are that? Please make a note in your running notebook. Make a note: Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, Tripura. Please make a note in your working note: MTMN. Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura, Nagaland. These are the 4 states. Please keep in mind. Reason, examination. No need to by hand, but this is one question which is set from the backdrop of your threshold limit for registration. See, out of 6 to 8 adjustments in the examination, you will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 adjustments. So one adjustment will be revolving with respect to the state from where you originate. If you are from any of these 4 states, my threshold limit is different. For that purpose, let me need to remember these 4 special category states. Now, 22 says, other than special category states. What is special category states? 4: Mizoram, Tripura, Nagaland, Manipur. These are the 4 states. Now, other than special category states, what they say? Every supplier. Now, supply of goods, supply of services. Every supplier shall be liable for registration in the state or union territory from where supply of taxable goods or services is made. Aggregate turnover is exceeding 20 lakhs in a financial year. It says, other than your 4 special category states, if your aggregate turnover, friends, please keep in your mind what we have discussed in our previous examples and definitions. They are referring to something called aggregate turnover. My term aggregate turnover is referred here, where they say, if this aggregate turnover is more than 20 lakhs, then a registration is required. Persons liable for registration. So if I have my aggregate turnover in any of the states other than those 4, and that aggregate turnover is exceeding 20 lakhs, section 22 gets triggered, where I have to register under GST law. So what is the importance for special category states? That special category, they say, if your aggregate turnover is 10 lakhs. So those 4 states, what are those 4 states? Mizoram, Manipur, Tripura, Nagaland. These four states, if you are having an aggregate turnover, of 10 lakhs and above, then I have to register. Other than those 4 states, my aggregate turnover exceeding 20 lakhs, I have to register. Go with me. Don't confuse yourself. Go with me. I'll take you through all your 40 lakhs, various states, etc. Multiple things are there. One by one, I'll take you through. Absolutely don't confuse. Just go with the flow with me. So as of now, please keep in mind, as per my section 22, there are only 4 special category states. If my aggregate turnover, what is aggregate turnover? There are 4 elements. Now, if my aggregate turnover is exceeding 20 lakhs, you're not in a special category state, then you have to get registered. If you're in a special category state, my aggregate turnover is exceeding 10 lakhs, then I have to register. This is what they have said. Understand? Then section 22, special category states, they say, sir, you have given a threshold limit of 10 lakhs. What if I change my mind? I want to increase from 10 lakhs to 15 lakhs. My business people say, 10 lakhs is too less. Why don't you increase the limit? So they say under section 27, the government, at the request of special category state, on the recommendations of the council, that aggregate turnover can be enhanced from 10 lakhs up to a figure of 20 lakhs. So section 22 says, in case of a special category state, on the request of a special category state, to whom the government of special category state, and also a recommendation from a GST council, that basic threshold of 10 lakhs can be expanded to 20 lakhs. Sir, what will happen to the other states? Now, what will happen to the other states? Now, other states, that 20 lakhs can be enhanced to 40 lakhs. That is what we are going to see. Now, states where there is a supplier of goods alone. Now, please keep in mind, this is some important. Till now, we have discussed something called aggregate turnover. If my aggregate turnover in a state is up to 20 lakhs, don't register. If my aggregate turnover exceeds 20 lakhs and I'm having a supply of taxable goods or services, please register. Where? Other than special category states. In special category states, up to 10 lakhs, no register. Once you cross 10 lakhs, get registered. That's what they say. Now here they say, sir, what if I'm a supplier of goods? I'm not supplier of services. Look at the term, supplier of goods alone. They say, government at the request of a state, on the recommendation of the council, that threshold limit of 20 lakhs can be expanded, can be extended up to a sum of rupees 40 lakhs. So here they say, look, you're not a special category state. You're other than special category state. Now, when you're other than a special category state, what I will do, I'll give you enhancement of your aggregate turnover for a sum of rupees 40 lakhs. Now, what they say, that 40 lakhs is only for a supplier who's supplying goods. Now, this is something where unwanted confusion has come into picture. If you are a supplier of goods, then alone, supplier of goods alone, if you are a supplier of goods alone, then the 20 lakhs can be enhanced up to a sum of rupees 40 lakhs. Is it applicable for special category states? No. Sir, other than special category states, if I talk about a supplier who is supplying only goods, no services. Now, exception to that, rent, your income from fixed deposits. Now, that is what they're saying here in this particular section 22. What they say, in case if you're a supplier who is exclusively in supply of goods and you're having an income by way of an exempted service, which is by way of an interest or discount. So they say, look, you are a person includes your individual HUF, etc. If you are having only supply of goods, in addition to that, I have income by way of fixed deposit interest or interest from savings deposit, whatever you call. except that you don't have any service, then I'll think of you. Instead of giving you that 20 lakhs threshold limit, I'll increase to 40 lakhs. I'll increase to 40 lakhs. This is what they have brought in under section 22. Please keep in mind, this particular provision is other than special category states. Now, when we are talking about this particular thing, there is one particular slide. I'll bring your attention to that particular slide. Yeah. Now, when we are talking about this 40 lakhs turnover, now this is a particular states who have come forward and say, look, you have given 20 lakhs, we are good, we are happy with that. These states, Arunachal Pradesh, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, Puducherry, Sikkim, Telangana, Tripura, Uttarakhand. Now, if you see this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Out of these 10, Telangana and Puducherry, these are not that special category states. All the special category states, excluding that Telangana and Puducherry, they said, please don't bring into that 40 lakhs limit. We are happy with that 10 lakhs or 20 lakhs what you have given. We don't want, where though my supplier is supplier of goods, in these states, I don't want to have this confusion of 40 lakhs and 20 lakhs. This is what they have said. So I would like to draw your attention to your institute material. People are listening to me. I would request you to open your institute material. If we come to page number 9.14, there is one chart in page number 9.14. Institute material, page number 9.14. That is one chart which is summarizing all this discussion. What it says. Please go with me. First and foremost, sir, if you are a special category state, what is a special category state? Only 4. Mizoram, Tripura, Manipur, Nagaland. What is the threshold limit? Aggregate turnover up to 10 lakhs. Please look into your institute material. These four states, it is written as 10 lakhs for supply of goods, 10 lakhs for supply of services. Clear? Next. Sir, what if I am not a special category status? What if I am not a special category state? Then they say, look, you have two scenarios. Scenario number 1, your supplier is supplying goods and services. Then 20 lakhs is your threshold limit. I repeat, if you look at your person, that person is into activity of supply of goods, supply of services. Don't talk, 20 lakhs is your threshold limit, other than special category states. Now, the complication came in where they say, sir, I have only those persons who supply goods, they don't have any services. Then the lawmaker said, look, the 20 lakhs I'm going to extend up to sum of rupees 40 lakhs, except these particular 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These 10 states, there is no exemption, maximum threshold limit of 40 lakhs. It is curtailed to 20 lakhs. So here, for you to easily understand, easily remember, I would say this way. You remember that Article 279A. There I have given 11 states. That Article 279A, all that 11 states read with 2 additional called this Telangana and Puducherry. Now they have come forward and said, please don't bring this 40 lakhs to us. We are happy with that limit of 20 lakhs or 10 lakhs what you have given. We don't want to get in. Examination point of view, most of the time your questions will be set from a particular state called Telangana and Puducherry. Now these are the 2 states which will be tested in your examination. Reason? These are the 2 states which are not falling in your special category, where they don't want to enhance for that supply of goods to 40 lakhs. So this is one thing which you need to keep in mind for your examination point of view. Let me see if there are any questions. If friends, you have any questions, please post into the question window. Wherever it is required, I'll interrupt and I'll give more clarification in this regard. Now, coming back, as of now, there are no questions. I think so far so good. Now, so section 22, which talks about your threshold limit, examination, out of that 6 to 8 marks adjustment, they'll ask you, please comment, please confirm whether the assessee needs to get registered on the basis of your aggregate turnover. So we have understood what is an aggregate turnover. We have understood how to calculate aggregate turnover. We have also understood what is the threshold limit in case of special category states, in case of other than special category states. Special category states, 10 lakhs. Other than special category states, 20 lakhs. Supply of goods, supply of services. Sir, only supply of goods. Now, other than these 10 states, rest all is 40 lakhs is my threshold limit. Now, I draw attention to page number 9.14 of your institute material. This is summation where they have brought in much more clarity how to interpret that 10 lakhs, how to interpret 20 lakhs, how to interpret my 40 lakhs. Not a big rocket science. Just we need to remember this particular bifurcation from your examination point of view. Once you are into practice, you have access to various material reference to notifications where you can confirm upon. Moving further, persons liable for registration under section 22, migration of existing taxpayers. Now, this is almost 3 years gone after we moved into GST law. This is a redundant provision. What it says, people who have already registered the existing central excise service tax VAT, they will be auto-migrated to GST law. This is what section 22 says. Not important. Next. Now, this is something which we need to keep in mind, very important, practically, not from examination point of view, from your articleship or from your career point of view. This is the provision where it says, persons who are liable for registration on account of transfer or otherwise, succession in my business. Let us read the provision where it says, where a business carried on by a taxable person registered under this act is transferred, whether on account of succession or otherwise, to another person as a going concern. The transferee or the successor, as the case may be, shall be liable to be registered with effect from date of such transfer or succession. Now, examination again. Whenever there is a transfer, sir, how and when these provisions are important for us, and why we need to remember this from examination point of view. Now, death. Now, post-COVID, we have seen many instances within the family, around the family, or around our community where people have been affected with COVID. There was a natural death of a person. The business has been stopped at a particular point in time. Someone has to take over that particular business. Now, this is one provision where it says, wherever there is a transfer by virtue of succession or otherwise, transfer from one person to another person. How did that transfer happen? Transfer happened as a going concern. Now, from one person to another person. Now, when the transfer happened, the person who is transferring, there is a transferor, there is a transferee. The person who is giving, the person who is receiving. The person who is giving is a taxable person. If the person who is giving is a taxable person, he is giving to a transferee. The transferee should get mandatorily registered under GST. Why? Because the transferee, the transferor is already registered. My transferee has to get registered under GST law. I'll give an example. Sir, I have a client where this client is a proprietary concern. Like father is doing the business. All of a sudden, there was a natural death. That was transferred to the son. Say in the month of February, we are on 23rd February. The transfer of business happened from father to the son. How? Because of death. Till February, the turnover of the business is say 28 lakhs. Already the owner proprietor is registered under GST law. February and March put together, the threshold limit is say my turnover at best is possible is say 3 lakhs or 2 lakhs. So when you look into threshold limit, 20 lakhs is what you are saying, assuming it's not a special category state. If it is a special category state, 10 lakhs is my threshold limit. So this son is going to have a turnover of at best 3 lakhs, Feb and March put together. Should we need to get him registered under GST law? Read this provision where it says, wherever there is a transfer on account of succession or otherwise, where the transferor is already a taxable person, already registered, and this business is transferred as a going concern, to the transferee, then from the date of such transfer, the transferee shall be liable to be registered. This is what my section 22 talks about. So friends, please keep in mind, when we talk about this situation of succession, it is compulsory for the transferee to get registered under the GST law, irrespective of my threshold limit, irrespective of the turnover. The moment the transfer is registered, transferee also has to be registered. So what if there is an amalgamation merger? Now we have another slide. We are going to discuss on this particular amalgamation and merger. Now, where there is a amalgamation or merger, the same provision similar to your transfer, from the day when there is an amalgamation or merger, where the court has declared that from this date this company has been amalgamated, these two companies have joined together, or this company was split into this company and this company. From that particular time where my certificate of incorporation is given, I have to get registered. Since my original entity is registered, my amalgamated entity also have to be registered. My original entity is registered, demerger, two companies have evolved, then even the demerged companies also have to register. This is my section 22. Sir, in case of succession, in case of merger, in case of demerger, it is compulsory for the transferee to get registered by virtue of my section 22. Will threshold limit be applicable? Exception? No, it is not applicable. Next. Now, these are a couple of points which are brought in by way of explanation under my section 22, where they have clearly explained. They have clearly explained what, whenever you are calculating this term called aggregate turnover, this shall include supplies made by a taxable person on his own account or as a on behalf of the principal. So first point, please bear in your mind whenever an example is given. When you look into the turnover, the turnover which is reported in profit and loss account, and the turnover which is rooted in my balance sheet as payable receivable. I repeat, the turnover which is rooted in my balance sheet as payable receivable on behalf of the principal. What do you mean by that? Sir, I am acting as an agent. They'll credit a commission. I have been appointed as an agent. For every shirt which I am selling, I get 5 rupees as commission. I also get 3 rupees as commission for the purpose of taking over bad debts, recoverables, receivables, lot of things. I do a marketing, development, etc. So 8 rupees is my commission. During the year, I've sold 1 crore worth of material on which I'm going to get 8 lakhs as my commission. I repeat, when I sell goods worth 1 crore, I get my commission of 8 lakhs. Sir, I record 8 lakhs as my income in my profit and loss account. That 1 crore is not my material. Whatever I'm selling, it is my principal. Now, the moment you say you're acting as an agent, this explanation says the expression aggregate turnover shall include. So when you're acting as an agent, they say all your aggregate turnover will include that supply which you have made on behalf of your principal. So those supplies which you have made on behalf of your principal shall form part of your aggregate turnover. So when you do this calculation of aggregate turnover, please keep in your mind, we will not look into profit and loss account alone. We also look into your balance sheet, whether or not you have received any money on behalf of your principal. This is something which needs to be kept in mind. First definition, first explanation which is given under section 22, how we calculate our aggregate turnover. Second, now this is continuation of our previous session, like the other faculty has touched upon job work activity. We have understood what is a job work. We also have understood what is a importance placed on the registered person when goods are sent for job work. From job worker premises, goods can be sent or a supply can be made directly. I'll give a practical example. Sir, I'm a small time job worker. My principal, I have a principal called Ashok Leland. Ashok Leland sends a structure, sends a chassis to me. On the chassis, I build a bus body. Now, Ashok Leyland does the manufacturing activity of a chassis with an engine. I get just a trailer, I get the chassis on which I put this particular, like if you see tipper, the tipper has got the back portion which carries the goods. So the that portion which is manufactured by me as a job worker, which is put onto that particular chassis. I'm acting as a job worker. After the job work activity, that particular tipper, which is a finished product, from Ashok Leyland, I'm getting just an empty chassis. That empty chassis, I'm putting a structure. I'm putting a structure as a job worker. So this is becoming a truck or a trailer. So, or a tipper. Now, this particular activity, job work, after doing the job work, there is a supply. Ashok Leyland says, Praveen, deliver this particular truck from your job work premises to Mr. X, to Mr. Y, to Mr. Z. The supply is happening from my premises. What they say, the supply of goods after the job work by a registered job worker shall be treated as a supply of goods by the principal, and the value of such goods shall not be included in the aggregate turnover. So they say this shall not be included in the aggregate turnover of the registered job worker. Here, Praveen is a job worker to Ashok Leyland. When I sell a tipper worth 30 lakhs from my job work premises, this 30 lakhs will be included as a turnover in the hands of Ashok Leyland, not in the hands of Praveen. Now, is Praveen acting as an agent? Is he fitting into clause number 1? No. Principal to job work. Principal to principal. Now, Praveen is a job worker who is registered under GST law. Ashok Leyland is also a person registered under GST law. So when the goods are supplied from Ashok Leyland to Praveen for the purpose of job work, after the job work, when the tipper is delivered to the customer, the value of the tipper, say 30 lakhs, that 30 lakhs shall not be considered in my turnover. Rather, this is for the purpose of your section 22, that shall be included in the hands of your Ashok Leyland. This is what it talks about your section 22, explanation number 2. Very important. Now, whatever I am saying important, please bear in mind. Examination, you have that 6 to 8 adjustments. Now, all simple. They will give you a simple example. Say Mr. XYZ Limited, who is a job worker, has supplied goods worth rupees 10 lakhs from the job worker premises of Mr. X. Now, we are talking from the SSC registration of X point of view. Please calculate the aggregate turnover of Mr. X. Now, XYZ Limited made a supply of 10 lakhs from my job work premises for 10 lakhs. By virtue of section 22, what they say, because the registered person X is making a supply from my premises, that shall not be considered for my aggregate turnover. Who is me? Mr. X, who is a job worker. Now, please keep in mind, point number 1, principal agent. Point number 2, principal to principal. So if you are working as a job worker on principal to principal basis, that supply shall not be considered in your aggregate turnover. So these are a couple of points relevant from your section 22. If there is a principal agency contract, then the agent needs to report that for aggregate turnover purpose. If that is principal to principal purpose, I should not consider that particular supply in my aggregate turnover. Please bear in mind, these are the 2 important explanations which are given under section 22 for the calculation of my aggregate turnover. So whenever I do this particular aggregate turnover, whenever I do this particular aggregate turnover, they say, please include this agent thing. Please exclude this particular job work thing from your aggregate turnover. Third point, special category, we have already discussed. Out of 11, Article 279A, they have given 11 states. Out of 11, 7 have voluntarily gone out, 4 are left out. What is this 4? Mizoram, Tripura, Manipur, Nagaland. These are the 4 special category states. So friends, this is what section 22 talks about your relevance of aggregate turnover, how we calculate our aggregate turnover. Let me see if there are any questions. There's one question from Padmanabhan, where he says, sir, section 22.3, there is no deemed registration on succession. It is not deemed registration. It is a compulsory registration. Padmanabhan, deemed registration, okay. You cannot deem that the registration has moved from when, okay, I understood your question. Padmanabhan asked, so there is a father who is doing a business activity as a proprietor. After the death of a father, or assuming even otherwise, by virtue of a gift deed, by virtue of a will, by virtue of a, I repeat, income tax, like once you get qualified, please keep in mind, most of you have these practical issues of gift, will, gift deed, will, and succession. This is some planning which you do. Now, one fantastic question from this Padmanabhan says, so when there is a succession, is that a deemed registration under section 22? Here, once father has given a will or a gift deed to his son, that on from so and so date, my business gets transferred to this son, so and so son. Please bear in mind, the GST registration of father does not flow to the son, for the reason my GST registration is linked with the PAN number. PAN of father, PAN of son is different. The deeming fiction does not come into picture. By virtue of section 22, they say the son shall compulsorily have to get registered under GST law. It is not a deeming fiction. Now, when I say deeming fiction, PAN for father, PAN for son is different. So I cannot assume that both are same. I have to have a fresh registration, and son has to make an application for registration, and then you'll get a new number for that. Hope I have answered your question, Padmanabhan. Next, moving on. Okay. Now, we have understood who are the persons who are liable for registration. Now, section 23 is one provision which is like Vajrayuddha. Now, once you have the section 23 strongly embedded in your mind, you can say you should not register for the purpose of GST under section 23. Section 23, it's the non-obstinate clause, notwithstanding anything content kind of thing. Now, it says, whenever you're talking about registration, when you look into your section 23, government has defined a couple of activities where they say, when your registration is not required under the GST law, where they say, for the purpose of section 23, any person engaged exclusively in the business of supplying of goods or services or both that are not liable to tax, that are wholly exempt from tax under this act or IGST Act. So they say, if you look into this particular provision, a person engaged exclusively, they're saying that if you're into this particular business, exclusively, what is that? Supply of goods which are not liable to tax, or supply of goods which are wholly exempt. No need to register. Example, petrol bunk. Sir, I have my father-in-law, I have my cousin brother who is doing this activity of sale of petrol and diesel. He is having a turnover of 200 lakhs. For the purpose of GST registration, other than special category states, liable to tax or it is wholly exempt. No need to get registered. Another question. Sir, I have rental income. I have 20 crores of rental income. 20 crores of rental income. If you see this Maharashtra, Mumbai, a small piece of land worth crores of rupees. So if you have a space of 20 by 20, it is worth around 85 lakhs to 1 crore, bare minimum. Rental income itself, you will have around 40 to 50,000. Now you have the rental income from a residential property. Rental income from a residential property worth 2 crores, worth 20 crores. Entire my income of rental from residential activity is exempted under GST law. Though I have my 2 crore or say 20 crore exceeding the 20 lakhs threshold limit, because it is a exempted activity, no need to register. So the law very clearly says, when you look into your aggregate turnover, you have done the calculation of aggregate turnover, all your aggregate turnover, zero, there is zero element of taxable. Everything is exempted. Everything is not liable to tax. When I say not liable to tax, it is your non-GST supply, either exclusive exemption or not liable because of your section 9. Any of these activities, it says don't register, no need to get registered. Clause B. An agriculturist to the extent of supply of produce out of cultivation of land. So when I have a land which is meant for cultivation and I have been defined as an agriculturist, any produce out of my agricultural land, no need to get registered. Now, many of the farmers, please keep in mind, not everything which comes on social media is right. Just because there is a riot, just because there is a hartal, it doesn't mean that everything there is a negativity into that. There are provisions, there are laws which are brought in under the disguise of an agriculturist. If someone is doing a business activity which is subjected to GST, where there is a levy of income tax, when there is applicability of income tax, people are getting out of the taxation purview. The lawmaker has brought in a couple of provisions which are very, very clear with respect to this agriculturist activity. So please keep in mind, as of now, under section 23, if you have a client who is an agriculturist, then no need to get registered under GST law. Examination, one question out of this particular section 23. I'll give you an example. Sir, there's a assessee who comes into your office and says, sir, I'm a mediator. What will I do? There is an agriculturist who produces agricultural produce. Example, rice. There is a market where there is a person who is a wholesale trader in rice. Praveen is acting as a agent. Praveen is buying from the agriculturist and selling to the third party. Praveen is giving on the same amount to this particular agriculturist with a commission. We call that as a commission agent. Now there is an exemption for commission agents. Why? You're dealing with your agricultural produce. So if I have an income which is exempt from GST law, I'm falling into this particular clause A called wholly exempt. How? By virtue of an exemption notification. If at all, if you look into your aggregate turnover, your aggregate turnover is completely of exempt income. Source is exempt, non-taxable activity, either non-taxable or exempt. When I say non-taxable, sale of liquor for human consumption, petrol and diesel, either non-taxable activity or your second activity called exempt activity. Only these two activities are there in your aggregate turnover. Law says, section 23 says, I give you a exemption. This is what the law says. Now, 23, this is what we need to understand. Now, in addition to that, section 23 has a fantastic provision called where it says, the government, on the recommendations of the council, by a notification, they can specify some category of persons who are exempted from getting registration, from obtaining registration. Now, this is one of the peculiar provision which we need to keep in mind. The government of India, the government, state government, union territory, or special category states, a state or union territory, on the recommendations of the council, can notify a set of persons who are exempted from obtaining registration. Now, that is how this particular notification called 10 of 2019 has come into picture, where they say any person who's exclusively dealing with supply of goods. I repeat, a person who's dealing with exclusively supplying with the supply of goods, where aggregate turnover in a financial year does not exceed 40 lakhs. Now they say any person who is having exclusively supply of goods, and that person who have a turnover not exceeding 40 lakhs. What it says, my government, by virtue of section 23, they have invoked section 23 to say that fellow is exempted from obtaining registration. Now, always remember, the notifications are subjective or absolute or conditional. When I say absolute, it says straight away absolute exemption. When I say absolute exemption, example, agriculturist or agriculture produce. The moment I have an agriculture produce, section 23 says absolute exemption. Whatever you do, your agriculture produce is exempted. You need not get registered under GST. Conditional. Exemption is there subject to some conditions, means it may be applicable for this, it may be applicable for that. They have given some conditions. That's how this notification 10 of 2009 is 19 is a conditional notification. I have referred to your page number 9.14 of Institute material, which talks about this particular exemption. What it says, look, under 23, I'll give you an exemption. If you are dealing with supply of goods where your turnover does not exceed 40 lakhs rupees. Now here exceptions are, you should not be a person who is requiring a compulsory registration under 24. Now this section 24 deals with set of people where my compulsory registration has been triggered. My compulsory registration is triggered. Now this we will understand little while. Don't worry with section 24. This absolute notification, what we see, is converted into conditional notification, where it says, when you think of registration under section 23, if we're dealing exclusively with supply of goods, sir, as long as I deal with supply of goods within a state, I have an exemption. The moment I go out of the state, which is called interstate supply, that is how way section 24 comes into picture, where it says, boss, you're not exempted from registration. Also it says, persons who are dealing with ice cream, persons who are dealing with ice cream, persons who are dealing with ice cream, persons who are dealing with pan masala, persons who are dealing with tobacco products, these are the products for whom my exemption from registration is not applicable. For these three categories, they say, if you are dealing with supply of goods, supply of ice cream, supply of pan masala, supply of tobacco or manufacturing tobacco substitutes, any of these three category products, you're exempt. You will not enjoy the benefit of this notification. That means to say, they have given 40 lakhs. I'll give you an example. There is a small shop fellow who is running, this branded ice cream shop. The moment you say you're a supplier of ice cream, though your threshold turnover is less than 40 lakhs, this benefit of notification is not extended. Reason? The 40 lakhs threshold limit. Now 20 lakhs is a general benefit. Beyond 20 lakhs up to further 20 lakhs is what this notification talks about. So I have a basic threshold limit of 20 lakhs. Beyond 20 lakhs, further 20 lakhs, when I look into, these three categories are kept away. Sir, ideally, I am dealing with this supply of ice cream. Up to 20 lakhs, no need to register. The moment you cross 20 lakhs, you are touching 22 lakhs. You have to get registered under GST law. Sir, I am dealing with supply of ice cream, which is supply of goods. Why don't you give you a benefit of that 40 lakhs? They say, look, three categories of people are kept away from this benefit. One is ice cream. Second is pan masala. Third is your tobacco. These are the three people who have been kept out of that additional benefit of 20 lakhs. I repeat, additional benefit of 20 lakhs. So this is one particular adjustment from your examination point of view, one adjustment which you can expect. Now, let me go back to your question window to see any questions are there till now. Yashodhara, there is one question. What is the logic in giving exceptions to these goods? What is the logic in giving exceptions? Yeah, fantastic question. Yashodhara from Bangalore has asked this question. What she says, why there is an exception given to ice cream, pan masala and tobacco? One of the SSC has challenged in Supreme Court. One of the SSC has challenged in the High Court. Ice cream. Vendor who is dealing with ice cream, it is in context of your composition scheme, where they say, why was that we have been kept outside the benefit of this 40 lakhs benefit? Why is that we have been kept outside the benefit of this composition scheme? They have raised a question in High Court. What is the reason? Now, High Court said, look, we are not there to interfere with the government policy. Now, government said that these are the industry which have been kept outside the purview. High Court has given a direction to the GST Council. Please examine your policy. Please examine your policy. Give a suitable justification or a logic why you have given exception to these three industries. So as of now, this is a policy decision why the government has kept this outside the benefit of 40 lakhs. So as of now, I show that to answer your question, it is a policy decision of the government. Now only GST Council can examine why they have kept outside. Usually they come with a justification. So now one of the assessee in the state of Gujarat, they have challenged this particular benefit exception. When you have given 40 lakhs, why you have kept me away? When you have given a benefit of composition, why you have kept me away? Why you are forcing me to not get into composition? So this was challenged and now it is pending at council to revisit on this particular exception. That is the answer to your question, Yashoda. Now, continuation to this exemption, they say, look, any person who is dealing with your handcraft. Now, this is one mark question you can expect from, or 2 marks question you can expect from registration e-waybill. I repeat, this handcraft products, handcraft items is one adjustment which you can expect for e-waybill and registration. Under section 23, they say any person who is dealing with your handcraft articles. I repeat, handcraft articles. What is that handcraft? The articles are the goods which are made out of hand. Now, there are many rural areas where the materials are made out of hand. Example, in Kerala, there are multiple products which are made out of coir. You can, the moment you think of Kerala, we have all this coconut trees which comes out of as one of the major cultivation. Now, when we think of Andhra or Telangana, we have this bamboo products which are one of the major handmade products. When we think of Rajasthan, we have this handmade bangles, which is again one another product which draws attention of the state as a whole. So the government said, look, if you're dealing with this handmade products, I'll give you a benefit of 40 lakhs. You make a supply within the state, you make a supply within interstate. We don't worry, we don't bother, or we don't distribute. The moment you are supplying this handcraft articles, I'll give you the benefit of this 40 lakhs threshold limit under this particular notification. Under this particular notification, you need not register. Persons making any interstate taxable supplies of the products of articles notified, when these are made by a craftsman, predominantly by hand, even though there is some element of machinery work involved, all India basis. So up to that threshold limit of aggregate turnover, we give you a relaxation. So government, it's a policy decision where they have given the benefit of this threshold limit beyond this. Within all along we are talking supply within the state. Now this is one exception where they say you make a supply outside the state. If I go back to my previous slide, you can see the term called exclusively supplying goods within the state. Now this exclusively should be within the state. Now if I make an interstate for handcraft products, even then I can continue to enjoy the benefit under section 23. This is what we need to keep in mind. Now for the purpose of e-waybill, they say I don't have a GST number. I can use my PAN number for the purpose of e-waybill. This is one small point which we need to keep only from practical point of view. Now, most of you who are listening to me, the future chartered accountants, going to be qualified chartered accountants, this is something relevant for you, which I'm going to talk now. Now, under section 23, the government has brought in this particular notification where they say you are exempted from registration under GST if you're supplying services. I repeat, if you're an assessee, you have a threshold limit of 20 lakhs. Now, when I talk about section 24, when talk about section 24, which talks about compulsory registration, my section 24 talks about compulsory registration. This particular provision says the moment you make an interstate supply, example, say Ravi from Delhi. Ravi has qualified his examination in May 2021. Say in August 2021, he got his ICAI membership and he also started his COP. In September 2021, he started his practice in Delhi. Sir, the moment I start my practice, you said there is a threshold limit of 20 lakhs. Till 20 lakhs, I need not get registered. Well and good. Sir, I expect that my billing may be up to 10 lakhs at best, or say 15 lakhs in the month, in the financial year 21-22. Sir, if I render services from Delhi to another a client in Haryana or a client in UP, Delhi, if you see the surrounding areas, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, your Jammu and Kashmir, your Punjab. Now, sitting in Delhi, I can render services to a customer in Haryana, render services to a customer in Haryana, Jammu and Kashmir, or Uttar Pradesh. I call that as an interstate supply. By virtue of my section 24, even a 1 rupee billing I do interstate supply, I have to get registered under GST under section 24, which is called compulsory registration. Now, this is one provision I'm talking to you people where it says, if you are dealing with services under 23, government has taken care of this, saying that, look, you are a service provider, irrespective of intrastate or interstate, irrespective of intrastate, interstate, within the state or one state to another state, you are exempted from obtaining registration. You are exempted from obtaining registration up to a threshold limit of 20 lakhs. So the government say, as a service provider, exception, supplies of 9(5), supply of services other than notified under 9(5), all India basis, if my threshold limit does not exceed a sum of 20 lakhs rupees, then I am exempted from obtaining registration. So this is one of the important provision for many of the future chartered accountants who are going to get qualified, and also for fellow friends who are in practice or clients who are dealing exclusive services. You will have many of those individuals who come and say, sir, I am getting into event management service. I am in the state of Haryana. I have one of my client who is there in the state of, say, Uttar Pradesh. From Haryana, I'm rendering services to a client in Uttar Pradesh. It becomes an interstate supply. So when I go to the state of Uttar Pradesh and give a service over there, should I need to charge GST? Should I need to get registered under GST? Though my threshold limit is less than that. The answer for that, no need to register, because this benefit of notification under 23, where this notification 65 clearly says, don't get registered because I'll give you a blanket exemption under the GST law. So this is one important provision which you need to keep in mind with respect to services. Next. Now, section 24. Now, this is one section which says, when I read section 22, please make a note in your working note. When I talk about section 22, my section 22 says compulsory registration on the basis of your threshold turnover. Write down section 22 - compulsory registration continuation on the basis of threshold aggregate turnover. So my 22 says, section 22 says, till your aggregate turnover is within the threshold limit, no need to register. Now 24 is a compulsory registration which is coming out of, which is setting aside your section 22. Please keep in mind, I'll set aside your threshold limit of 20 lakhs or I'll set aside your threshold limit of 10 lakhs when I refer to my section 24. This says I will override your threshold limit under section 22 by saying that compulsory registration is required when any of these clauses are met at your end. First clause, persons making interstate taxable supply. As I was giving an example of an individual called Ravi. Ravi, who was qualified in July 2021, he started his practice in the state of Delhi. From Delhi, if he's giving a service to a customer in Noida, if he's giving a service to a customer in say Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Jammu and Kashmir, it becomes an interstate supply. So the moment there is an interstate supply, my section 22 threshold limit is set aside and they say it is a compulsory registration. So please keep in mind, section 23, government has notified. If you're a service provider, don't worry. Up to 20 lakhs, you're untouched. Up to 20 lakhs, you're untouched. Though you have interstate supply, exclusively dealt with services, you are untouched. Sir, what if, as a part of my practice, I also have a part-time business where I do a trading activity. I buy some goods from a person, I also sell goods to another person. Then the threshold limit under 20 lakhs, which is under section 23, is set aside because that is applicable only for a service provider. The moment I am a supply of goods, supply of services, then interstate supply gets triggered, and compulsory registration comes into picture. I'll give you an example to understand in a better way. Mr. X, an individual, I'll share my Excel file for brevity purpose. Mr. X, an individual. This X is this gentleman is rendering services, is rendering supply of goods also. Services intrastate, goods interstate. Value say 12 lakhs and this is 5 lakhs. My total value of supply 17 lakhs. I repeat, this Mr. Individual, this gentleman, say he is in the state of Gujarat. Now, Gujarat, not a special category state. My threshold limit under section 22, how much? My section 22 threshold limit is rupees 20 lakhs. Now, here my total value of supply is 17 lakhs. So as per section 20, it says up to a sum of rupees 20 lakhs, no need to register. Up to sum of rupees 20 lakhs, no register. Now it is only in case of intra-state supplies. Only in case of interstate supplies. Now when I read my section 24, overriding provision. Section 24 says, you have a interstate supply, then compulsory registration. Though, what we will say, though Mr. X has a aggregate turnover, ATO, section 2, clause 6, aggregate turnover. Though the aggregate turnover of Mr. X is rupees 17 lakhs, within the threshold limit, applying my section 24, registration is required. So please understand, friends, in this particular example, though my section 22 says, you have a threshold limit of 20 lakhs, that threshold limit is set within the state of Gujarat. My section 24 is overriding my section 22. How? Saying that interstate supply. So the moment you have an interstate supply, your threshold limit is set aside and I'll trigger in my compulsory registration. So this is what is relevant for us to understand. I'll come back to my PowerPoint. Hope you are able to see my PowerPoint. Okay. As and when you have questions, feel free to post your questions. Now, coming back, this compulsory registration in case of an interstate supply. If a casual taxable person, now it says the moment you are a casual taxable person, mandatory registration, compulsory. I'll not look into your aggregate turnover. The moment you are a CTP, like you're coming to this from the state of Rajasthan, first example we have discussed. The moment you come out of Rajasthan, you're compulsory. The state where you're going to supply the goods, you're supposed to register. Then RCM, persons who are required to pay tax under RCM. Now, this is one fantastic provision where it says, Look, you're paying tax on for RCM basis. The moment you are paying tax on RCM basis, you're compulsory supposed to register. Example, sir, I'm an agriculturist. I have agriculture produce. I have say 50 lakhs as a turnover declared from the agriculture produce. Whatever agriculture produce is there, that agriculture produce I have to take it to mandi. Mandi is a place where the goods are sold. From there I have to supply. I use a transporter service, a GTA service. The moment I use a GTA service where tax has to be paid on RCM, I have to pay tax. So I have to get registered for the purpose of this payment of RCM. Persons required who are required to pay tax under 9(5). Persons who are required to pay tax under 9(5). Now, this provision is more precisely from Ola Uber point of view. Now, if you recollect 9(5), it says they have given a list of services. The list of services are provided through e-commerce operator. The person, like example of Uber or Ola, the moment I book a Ola auto, I get into auto. The moment that journey is over, I pay the fare amount to the taxi driver, the auto driver, and I get out. Money is paid to the service provider. At times, I pay through to Ola or Uber directly through Ola Money or Uber Money, whatever it is, or I'll take a decision to pay to the service provider. So there are a couple of list of services under 9(5) where they say those list of services should be paid, the tax on that should be paid by the person who is called e-commerce operator. So they say those people who are rendering that list of services under 9(5), they have to mandatorily register. Next is your NRTP. The moment there is a non-residential taxable person, irrespective of your threshold limit, you need to get registered under GST law. Next. Persons who are required to deduct TDS. Now, TDS, TCS, section 51 talks about your TDS. Now, we have separate provisions which are dealing with TDS and TDS. Let us wait for that provision. As of now, please keep in mind, the moment TDS is there, I have to get a separate registration. This is applicable to government authorities, government agencies or government public sector undertakings. TDS provisions are applicable. So under section 51, if you're a government authority or government undertaking, mandatorily you have to register under GST. Now, PAN is not required. They will give you a separate TDS deduction number if you're a government undertaking. Like example, this Municipal Corporation of Telangana, Municipal Corporation of Bihar, of say Patna. Any local government agencies, if they have to deduct TDS under section 51, the government said compulsory registration of GST is required. Why? They need to require this money and pay to the government of India. So if you are acting as an auditor to any of this government or public sector undertaking, registration is compulsory. Then persons who make taxable supply on behalf of other, principal agent. Agent is a fellow who has to register. ISD. In the last session, I believe you had an understanding of ISD. Concept of ISD. The moment I have to act as ISD, separate registration is required for under this particular provision. Next, the person who is supplying goods and services through a e-commerce operator. Please bear in mind. Any registered person, any person who makes supply of taxable goods through e-commerce operator. I'll give you an example. I'm a small-time dealer in the state of Karnataka. In the state of Karnataka, there's a small place called Udupi. Udupi is a place where Lord Sri Krishna is there. I run a shop, a toy shop. I prepare this toys of Lord Sri Krishna. Those toys I would like to sell through Amazon. I would like to sell through, say, Flipkart. The moment I supply those goods, which are taxable under GST law, I supply those goods through e-commerce operator, then I'm the person who is supposed to get registered. Though you have a turnover of say 5 lakhs, 3 lakhs, the moment you supply those goods through e-commerce operator, you're mandated to get registered under the GST law. This is your clause number 9. Clause number 10, e-commerce operator. Any person, Flipkart, Amazon, etc., those who are running that particular Flipkart or Amazon, those are the people who have to mandatorily register under GST law. Under GST law. It is clause 10. Then clause 11, every person who is supplying online information database access retrieval, OIDAR. Now, these are the online services where there is a dedicated internet line when they give us services, like example, say we have this Netflix, we have Amazon. I would like to watch like Hotstar, Netflix, Amazon. There's a dedicated line. Is your clause 11. Clause 12. Any other person's government deeming necessary to get registered. That is what they say. Now, we have understood section 22, which deals with your threshold limit. We have understood section 23, where government has given exemption from registration. We have also read the provisions under 24, compulsory registration. Now, these are all 22, 23, 24 basic points, triggering points. When should I register? When I need not register. 22, 24, read together. 22, 24, read together. 23, which says no need to register because government has given a blanket exemption. Now, the procedure for that, when do I register? Every person is liable for registration 30 days from the date when he is becoming liable to register. So the law says, whenever there is a triggering point, so the moment there is a triggering point that you are liable to register when aggregate turnover exceeds my threshold limit, or I do any of those dual activities under section 24, interstate supply or supplies to e-commerce operator. Whenever 22 or 24, I repeat, whenever 22 or 24, section 22, 24 is triggered, the law says within 30 days, you make you're liable for registration. Let me share my Excel to explain a couple of examples over here. Hope you are able to see my Excel file. Section procedure time limit. Say this particular activity, this particular example, what we are talking, this services are rendered in the state till August 2020, and this interstate supply happened in the month of, say, on 15th September 2020. I supplied goods worth 5 lakhs in the September. So the lawmaker says within 30 days, means till 14th October 2020, make an application. Make an application. So the law says 30 days from a triggering point. Now the triggering point for me here is 15th September 2020. The moment my triggering point is invoked, within 30 days, you need to apply for your registration. Now this is in case of a regular registration. Regular registration. Sir, what if it is a CTP or NRTP? The law says 5 days prior to commencement of supply. So here the law says, look, you have to obtain a prior registration. Now here this is after the triggering point. My regular registration, 30 days from the date of triggering point. My casual taxable person or NRTP, the law says 5 days prior to commencement of supply, please register. This is what the provision says under section 25. Let me go back to my presentation. Yes. So the law says, in case of a CTP or NRTP, 5 days from the date of commencement, at least 5 days from the date of commencement, please take a registration. In case you are a regular registration, don't worry, I'll give you 30 days. Now, in case of SEZ, they say SEZ unit or SEZ developer should have a separate registration from a domestic unit. This is what the law says with respect to SEZ. Next. Sir, what if I'm making a supply from territorial waters? Now, territorial waters, when we read the customs law, we will understand in depth the definition of India, the definition of territorial waters. The definition of India says, from the landmass, 12 nautical miles will be your territorial waters. Beyond that is the other coastal area. Beyond that coastal territorial waters is outside India. The territorial waters is from the coastal. There is a from the seabed there is a water. So what if there is a supply in territorial waters? Example, there is a ship which is there in say Shivaji International, let me take this Tuticorin in Tamil Nadu. There is an area called Tuticorin. There is a port near to Tuticorin. Suppose there is when there is a ship which is coming into India, it entered into the territorial waters. There is some damage happened to the ship. Now, an engineer gets into the territorial waters. He goes to repair the ship. He installs some goods. He also does a repair activity. Now, that point, what this section 25 says, a person who is making a supply from the territorial waters of India, he has to obtain the registration in the nearby coastal state or union territory. So, when you are talking about territorial waters, to that territorial waters, which is a nearby coastal state or union territory, that point you need to get registration. This is what the law says. Look, extensively the lawmaker has thought. If you are making a supply in territorial waters, please get registration in the nearby state or union territory. This is what the law says. Single registration within a state or union territory. Law says if you are within the state of, if you are having multiple businesses in Maharashtra, example, sir, I have supply of this paper, that is your printed stationery. I also have supply of what you call laptops. I also have supply of your vehicles for transportation. Division 1, stationery. Division 2, supply of, let me say, office related. One is stationery. Second is manpower. Third is your transportation service. So as an individual, I supply stationery. I give manpower, labor contract. I'm a labor contractor. I also have something called plying of vehicles for transportation purpose. I have 3 verticals. When I have my presence of business in the state of Maharashtra, I have a choice. All 3 verticals, I can have single registration or I can have 3 different registrations. So section 25 says, if you want, you can take 1 single registration for all 3 put together, or have 3 different for geographical control purpose, for business control purpose. You want to have multiple registrations. Those are all, you can have a separate registration. Then also the law says you can have a voluntary registration. We read section 22, we read section 24. Section 22, threshold limit of 20 lakhs. Section 24, compulsory. Any of those 12 conditions are met. I don't fit in, I don't exceed the threshold limit. I don't fit into any of those 12 clauses under section 24. So can I go for voluntary registration? Why? When I think of my business, most of my corporate people are saying, unless you have a GST, we don't give a business to you. This is typically what happens in case of a small time people, like most of these women entrepreneurs. Women entrepreneurs are very good in the interior decorative or selling of some household related products. I'll give an example of Infosys. Infosys in Bangalore has got a very good policy where they encourage women entrepreneurs in the factory, in the premises of Infosys. Any women entrepreneurs come and can keep a stall without any rental for advancement of their business. Whenever we say women entrepreneur, they say, look, one condition is you should have a GST registration. Reason, we have to comply with the law. Any goods which is coming in, any goods which is going out, you need to register under GST law. You also need to pay the taxes on that. Though I don't exceed my threshold limit for this particular business, I may opt for registration, which is called voluntary registration. This is what section 25 talks about. As I said, I can have 1 registration or I can have multiple registration. This example of supply of stationery, supply of manpower, supply of vehicles on hire for transportation of passengers. When I have 3 different verticals, if I have 3 different registrations, For the purpose of law, I call them as distinct persons. I call them as distinct persons. Why do I call as distinct persons? Section 25, read with subsection 3, very widely applied. Section 25. Whenever you have a different registration, supply of goods, movement of goods from one unit to another unit. Example. I have stationery. When I'm like I said, I'm a stationery. I'm supplying manpower. I am also giving into this transportation passenger. I need for manpower, I need paper for printing the timesheets. I need paper for preparation of invoices and other things. For applying of business, again, I need a bill book and couple of stationery. When stationery is moved from one registration, one unit to second unit, third unit, from this unit to this schedule 1 comes into picture. Supply distinct person. Any stationery moved from unit 1 to this unit or this unit, my schedule 1 under CGST law gets applied. Movement of goods from one unit to another unit is deemed to be a supply, which is from one distinct person to another distinct person. This is what important of your distinct person. Next. This is one provision which has come from 1st January 2020. Examination. 2 marks question you can expect from how the registration happens, what are the basic requirements, what is the purpose of this Aadhaar authentication. Now here they say, under GST law, with effect from 2020, they brought in a provision where they say you have a choice of registration where unless you have a PAN, I don't give you a registration. If you are a government undertaking, if you are a government agency like Municipal Corporation of Bihar, Municipal Corporation of Coimbatore, they don't need to have a PAN number because it's a society. It may be a society or it may be a government undertaking. Not that every government undertaking should have a business. Now, if any government undertaking, which is purely a government undertaking, they need not have a GST number. They'll be given with a tax deduction or collection account number under the GST law for the purpose of registration. PAN is a prerequisite only for exception. This government agencies, I don't give a PAN, I'll give a tax deduction number. Now, for the purpose of registration, there is an Aadhaar authentication, or there is a other mode of physical verification. So my registration can be approved on the basis of providing Aadhaar-based verification or regular authentication. What is that regular authentication? The officer in charge will come and do the physical inspection of your premises. If you don't want that physical verification of premises, you need to give a Aadhaar number, do a verification of Aadhaar. OTP, which comes to the register mobile number, comes to the email address. Based on that, your registration will be done online. No need to have a physical verification. Then Aadhaar is compulsory. Sir, I don't have Aadhaar. What will I do? There is a other method of verification where physical visit happens to your premises. This is what they are saying. Now, who are all required to have Aadhaar? If you think of any person which is controlled by a Karta, MD, whole-time director, or a partner, management association, committee of an association, board of trustees, or AOP, authorized signatory, or other class of persons. For all this, Aadhaar is compulsory. Now, other than this example, your government undertaking agency. For government undertaking, there is no Aadhaar required because it's a government undertaking. It goes with the physical verification where there is no requirement to have a Aadhaar authentication. Now, NRTP. So, non-resident taxable person doesn't have an Aadhaar. For that fellow will give his passport with a stamp if he is an individual. Sir, if he's not individual, it is a business entity. Then the tax registration certificate of that nation is a document relevant for my registration purpose. So what will happen? I'm liable to get registered, but I have not registered. Then the law says, don't worry. I have appointed someone called proper officer. That fellow, that proper officer, will initiate the provisions under section 22. He will proceed to get registered this particular person. I'll give an example. Most of the e-way bill related provisions will come across this particular provision. I am registered in the state of, say, Maharashtra. From Maharashtra, my goods are entering into the state of Uttar Pradesh. there is a e-way bill required where my goods have to be declared and e-way bill has to be prepared. I have not prepared any e-way bill. The moment goods have entered into the state of Uttar Pradesh, the state officer of Uttar Pradesh said, look, there is a consignment where there is a threshold limit under which e-way bill is required. You have not prepared e-way bill. You are supposed to pay tax under the state of Uttar Pradesh. So what that fellow will do, because you have violated a law, they will hold you as a person who is making a movement of goods, who is causing the movement of goods in the state of Uttar Pradesh. That fellow has to get registered and pay taxes. That is where this person liable to be registered, where proper officer will force him to get registered under that particular state. They'll give a temporary registration number called TRN. From the basis of TRN, they will collect the taxes for the offences committed. This is where the suo motu registration caused by the proper officer, where you have not obtained. Now, for these, there is a set of organizations called UNO. This embassy, consulate, etc. These are the specialized organizations where you will not have a GST number. They will be given with something called UIN, which is called unique identity number. So the government, the proper officer, on the basis of an application filed by any of these specialized organizations called United Nations organizations, or these financial institutions which are recognized under UN, or any of this consulate or embassy, they'll be allotted UIN on the basis of their application by whatever taxes they pay in India for the notified list of category. They're entitled for refund of that particular thing. So they make a separate application for getting allocated something called UIN, not a regular registration for them. Now, this is a procedural provision for the pause of benefit. I'll explain in general. This is not relevant from examination. For understanding point of view, this is required. There's one question from Yashoda. What she says, whether need to take in consideration of supply made prior to application date of paying tax. Whether need to take in consideration of supply made prior to application from the date of paying tax. Okay, Ambika, Yashoda, we need to keep in mind the threshold limit where a triggering point is there to get registered. The moment I have crossed the triggering point, the turnover already which has been over, I need not pay tax. From the day where the triggering point has met, only from there I need to pay tax. Already gone, which is under exemption, no need to pay tax. Only from the triggering point, what I have to pay, for that turnover I have to pay. Past, I need not pay tax. Next, this is one important provision where the law says, when you have registered under GST on your name board, please display your GST number. When someone comes for inspection within your registered premises, you display your registration certificate. Your registration certificate has to be mandatorily displayed prominently, a prominent location. Someone comes for your audit. Also, on the outside, on the name board, you mention your GST number. If not, probably like this 50,000 is a penalty applicable under GST law. Now, for CTP and NRTP, the lawmaker said, look, 5 days prior to your business commencement, please come and obtain a registration. Now, when you're doing a registration, when you're doing a CTP, law says you specify in your application, you want to do business for 30 days, 40 days, how many days? If you say 30 days, I'll give you a registration for 30 days. If we declare 120 days, the CTP says maximum I'll give you 90 days. When you make an application for CTP or NRTP, I'll give you the number of days that registration, either the number of days mentioned in the application or 90 days, whichever is earlier. In my application, I want only for 30 days. Though the law says 90 days, I'll give you validity for 30 days. No, sir, I want beyond 30 days, maximum 90 days I can give you. So the lawmaker, the officer says, I'll give you 90 days. Now, that particular registration, if I have given a sufficient cause, I can extend that period of 90 days, maximum further a period of 90 days. But, sir, I have come here for trade activity. Because of COVID, there is a lockdown. I was not permitted to open my shop. So please consider my application. You can see that the government local authority said that you did not, this is a period where there is a complete lockdown. So the officer, on the basis of sufficient cause, will give you an extension for the period of 90 days. Now, law says whatever application you are making, please disclose what is the business you do. Please disclose what is the estimated turnover you're going to have. Sir, why is it required? Lawmaker says, Baba, you're not a regular fellow in this state. You'll come for business, you'll run away after your business is over. Whatever business you're going to make, please disclose that turnover and deposit that tax in advance. I presume, when I go for a registration as a casual taxable person, 1 lakh is the maximum sale. Now, how do I know? The goods I'm carrying with me from Rajasthan, like example of this textile product I said, I carry of goods worth 10 lakhs. From Rajasthan, I take goods worth 10 lakhs to the state of Madhya Pradesh. So when I carry the goods of 10 lakhs to Madhya Pradesh, I make an estimate. At best, I can make a sale of 10 lakhs. So on 10 lakhs, whatever is the tax rate available, say 5%, deposited that sum of rupees 50,000 with the authority as an advance money. Sir, I don't do entire business. Out of 10 lakhs, only 4 lakhs have sold. Proportionately, you pay the tax, filing returns. Balance amount, you file a refund application. It will come back into your bank account. This is what the procedure in respect to section 25. Sir, I have done everything. You have asked me to register, I have registered. You asked me to get a CTP, I have done that. So you have asked me to get a regular registration, I have done that. So what if after registering, couple of changes I have to do? It's a regular business process. What could be the reason I have to change my I have to change my registration details? So when I'm registering, I've given that at door number, like say at door number 50, I've opened my business on rental basis. Because of my business prospects, I moved from door number 50 to door number 150. So the moment I change my business, I need to go to the GSTM portal, do the amendment of my core fields or non-core fields. The GST application says core, non-core, compulsory or important, not important. Now, what is that important? Your PAN number, your name, trade name, the person who is running the business, the place from where the business is happening. This they consider as a core fields. Now, any change in any of these fields, then I need to intimate to the authorities 15 days from the date the change is taking place. Sir, I have given Mr. X as a key authorized person for the purpose of running this business. Mr. X resigned the job and Mr. Y has taken over that position. So whenever there is a change of Mr. X to Mr. Y, who's an authorized representative, I go back to the GST portal. I do that amendment on the GST portal. So what is the time limit? 15 days from the date of triggering of that particular thing, I have to make the changes. Please keep in mind, whatever changes I do, there's a person called government officer who is watching all your activities. You make an application for registration, he'll grant you. After that, I do some corrections on the GST portal. Those corrections either will be accepted or will be rejected by a proper officer. Whenever I make some changes, those changes either will be accepted or rejected. Before rejection, that fellow will give you an opportunity of being heard by his willing to reject your changes. That is what section 25 deals with your procedural aspects of making a registration, filing for registration application or making some corrections on your GST portal. Next aspect is your cancellation or suspension of your registration. Again, theoretical aspect. There's one question from Yashoda. What she says, sir, is the tax paid at Uttar Pradesh can be utilized for input tax credit? Give an example for non-registration. Is the tax paid in Uttar Pradesh can be utilized as ITC? Give an example for non-registration. Now, there's one question. What Yashoda says, sir, I'm in Madhya Pradesh. I have a regular business in Madhya Pradesh. I want to go for setting up a business in Uttar Pradesh for a CTP. Or let's take example of this Rajasthan, very classic example. I have my traditional business of textile in Rajasthan. I've been selling goods. Now from Rajasthan, I have gone to the state of Uttar Pradesh for selling my goods. When I set up my business in Uttar Pradesh, I need to have a rented premises. I need to have some telephone for doing my business activity. I need to have some internet connectivity for giving a bill. I need to have some infrastructure. So when I pay rent, say I pay a rent of 1 lakh rupees. On 1 lakh rupees, the landlord charges me 18,000 as GST. So what if, can I take the input tax credit of that Uttar Pradesh way back in Rajasthan? Answer will be, look, the landlord in Uttar Pradesh is going to raise a bill on CTP, casual taxable person, who is registered in the state of Uttar Pradesh. I'll come back to my Excel to make you a better clarity. Let me come back to my Excel file. Hope you are able to see my Excel file. Regular registration is in the state of Rajasthan. I have applied for a CTP. I have applied for CTP in the state of Uttar Pradesh. Now, expenses where ITC can be claimed. 1, rental. 2, on say transportation. 3, with respect to some what you can say local purchases. Now, please bear in mind all these expenses where I have paid taxes. These particular expenses, I can take the benefit of input tax credit only in the CTP GSTN. This benefit I can enjoy. ITC can be enjoyed only in Rajasthan. The benefit shall not flow back to the state of let me correct. The benefit can be enjoyed only in Uttar Pradesh. My CTP in GSTN, my CTP GSTN, it is allocated in the state of UP. In the state of UP. So whatever ITC I want to enjoy, entire input tax credit I can enjoy only in Uttar Pradesh. This benefit shall not flow back to my Rajasthan. Clear? I have registered in Uttar Pradesh as a casual taxable person. At the time of registration, I have paid advance tax. Whatever tax I have enjoyed, I want to enjoy, I can offset that particular tax only in the state of Uttar Pradesh. So this is your point. Next point is your cancellation. Sir, I have registered. After registration, can I cancel my registration? If so, what is the process? How it can happen? Registration cancellation can happen suo moto by me as a registered person, by the government officer for any of the offences which I have carried out. When you can cancel for registration, I have stopped my business, I have transferred my business activity, death of a proprietor, or amalgamation, merger, or demerger. These are the 5 occasions where suo moto I will apply for registration. I don't require. I have stopped my business after COVID. My business has no one is there, no customer is coming. I've stopped my food business, so I'll call for cancellation. Transfer. I've transferred my business as a going concern. Death of a proprietor, or merger or demerger. All these aspects because of which I can call for cancellation, where application is filed by the applicant. Now, this is where the moment I make an application, the officer says, look, I'm going to suspend your registration because you have sought for cancellation. I'll do my audit, I'll do my assessment proceedings, then I'll issue an order for cancellation. That's called suspension. Suspension of registration is nothing but a period from the date of your application or from the day you want to cancel your registration till the date of final order for cancellation. That's called suspension. During your suspension, you cannot issue a tax invoice, you cannot do a business activity, you cannot collect any taxes. I repeat, during the period of that suspension, you cannot do your business, you cannot collect any of your taxes, you cannot issue any tax invoice. This is the period of my suspension, cancellation. Now, sir, suo moto I have applied. What is how the government officer can cancel? Government officer can cancel when you have when you have not complied with any of the GST provisions, or you have failed with the composition provisions. What is composition? We have already stated there are multiple requirements. One state have registered for composition, another state have applied for regular. No. As a composition person, you have done an interstate supply, not permitted. So if you have contravened, then again you cannot continue to hold your registration. Sir, I have to file my returns. I have failed to file my returns for a continuous period of 6 months. Sir, I have to start my business. I have not commenced my business. Like we talked about my voluntary registration. As per voluntary registration, I felt I'll start my business, but after registration, till 6 months, I haven't now. This I filed nil written for a period of 6 months. Officer says, look, you have taken a voluntary registration, though you are not required to get registered. I'm calling for cancellation. Clause E, fraud, willful misstatement or suppression of facts. When you have taken a registration, applying any of these activities, you obtained fraudulently registration, then they are going to cancel. Bear in mind, officer is going to give an opportunity of being heard before cancelling your registration. Now, whenever there is this cancellation, the lawmaker says, look, on the date of cancellation, 1 day prior to the cancellation, important, 1 day prior to cancellation, whatever inputs are there in your inventory, inputs which are there in stock, inputs which is there in semi-finished, inputs which is there in finished goods, or capital goods and plant and machinery, all these goods, whatever tax, input tax you have enjoyed, you reverse that input tax through electronic credit ledger and cash ledger. Examination, this is one question which could be tested for 4 marks as an adjustment. What they say, when you're seeking for cancellation, you have inputs in inventory. When I say inventory is raw material, work in progress, finished goods. Whatever inventory you have, on that inventory, if you have enjoyed your input tax, please reverse that input tax. Sir, what if I have plant and machinery or capital goods? All those capital goods on which I have enjoyed input tax, please reverse your input tax credit. Already I've read your provisions of input tax credit, section 16, section 18. I apply provisions of section 18, whatever benefit of capital goods I have enjoyed, proportionate credit I have to reverse. Question comes here. Sir, you're asking me to reverse my input tax credit on this inputs and capital goods. What will happen to my registration? Any purchases made prior to registration, will you permit me to take input tax credit? Already we have discussed section 18. All inputs lying in your stock 1 day prior to your registration, you can enjoy your input tax credit. Only on inputs, not on capital goods. So lawmaker says, those inputs which is lying in your stock, you can take your benefit of input tax if you have obtained a registration. For that form, ITC 02 after 5. So here, as of now, section 29 says, whenever the provisions, they say the assessee has contravened the provisions. If you see the newspaper, most of these newspapers say input tax evasion, 80 crores, 50 crores, 250 crores. 5 key managerial persons have been arrested because of your input tax fraud case. Now, this is one case. The lawmaker says, look, you have involved yourself in any of these contraventions. You supplied the goods without movement of goods. You have issued an invoice without movement of goods. You have taken input tax credit without actual receipt of goods. So because of these provisions, I consider that you're unfit for having a registration. I'll cancel your registration. So this is one mechanism where the lawmaker can call for cancellation. Important is your input tax credit. When we deal with your demand recovery provisions, when we deal with your penal provisions, section 122 is one powerful section which talks about this cancellation. The moment you are involved in any of this input tax, either you have issued a bill without supply or you have availed the input tax without receipt of goods, I will cancel your registration. I also invoke your penal provisions. Clause F. Most of the cases you will see supplier filed GSTR 1. Supplier has not filed GSTR 3B. Why GSTR 1? When you have talked about section 16, there was a matching concept of bill. Whatever bills I have accounted in my accounting software, the bills which are lying in my books of accounts, those bills should have a reflection in my GST portal. So my accounting software has got 10 bills. My GST portal, GST at 2A should also have 10 bills. So there is a concept of matching 1-to-1 books vis-a-vis my GST portal. What if there is a supplier who's filing one GST1 on a monthly basis? That fellow failed to file his GST 3B. Now GST 3B is a window, the return where taxes have to be paid to the government. Now this fellow supplier who has filed GST1 with actual turnover, he has filed GST 3B with a less turnover. When there is a mismatch between GST1 and 3B, that is also one point where government officer, the proper officer, can call in for cancellation of registration. Now, this 86B is one provision which has come in recently, November, which has created a lot of havoc. This 86B is a new provision, may not be applicable for your May 2021. This is a provision where they say 1% of your output tax should be paid using your electronic cash ledger. Now, this provision is not applicable if you're an SSC who have paid income tax more than 1 lakh. If you're an SSC who have filed claimed a refund of income tax more than 1 lakh. You're an SSC who have claimed a refund of GST more than 1 lakh. You're an SSC who have paid your cash more than 1% in cumulative during a financial year. Now, these are a couple of exceptions which are given under Rule 86. From examination point of view, they may ask a theory question for 4 marks, explain the reasons, explain the causes for cancellation of registration. Now, having understood this cancellation, there is a concept called revocation. That means, sir, my officer has called for cancellation. Why? I have not filed my returns continuously for a period of 6 months. Now, I don't want to get into cancellation. Let me make myself good. So what I will do, I'll come voluntarily, I'll pay my taxes to the government. Once I have paid my taxes to the government, I'll make an application with the officer concerned saying that, look, you have called for cancellation. Within a period of 30 days, I have made all these things good. So kindly revoke the cancellation. That means call back your order for cancellation. So if the proper officer has not done within a period of 30 days, or I have not complied with the requirements of the cancellation order within the 30 days of the date of order, there is a power given to the additional commissioner or joint commissioner for the period of 30 days. I'll come with an example for explaining this thing with my Excel file. Let me share my Excel file. Say, I have a defaulter of tax payment. On 30th September 2020, there was an order passed for cancellation. Now, 30 days from here, let me change this to a proper date, 30th September 2020. This is the date where my officer has passed a cancellation order. If I make the taxes due within a period of 30 days, then this I can seek for revocation with proper officer. Assuming I don't have money, I have paid my taxes on 1st November 2020. Then proper officer does not have authority. 30 days from 30th October 2020, a joint commissioner or additional commissioner can alone do the revocation. Now, I'll take 30 days from here, means till 29th November, I haven't paid taxes. Beyond 29th November, my commissioner alone can do the revocation, the cancellation. Please keep in mind, whenever we are talking about revocation, normally 30 days is given. Sir, I haven't done anything in 30 days. Proper officer cannot do anything. Further 30 days, a joint commissioner or additional commissioner can do a revocation. Sir, order is passed, 30 days gone, I haven't paid taxes. 30 days further is gone, joint commissioner or additional commissioner cannot do anything. Further period of 30 days, overall, if you see 30, 30, 30, 90 days is a window period within which I can seek for revocation of my cancellation. That means to say, if at all I have done any contravention, my revocation can be done within a period of 90 days by any of these officers' consent. This is what we need to keep in mind. Now, from examination point of view, what is that we need to remember? What is that we need to have clarity? Let me see before we talk about this, any questions further? Till now, there are no further questions. Okay. Now, from examination point of view, so what is that we need to keep in mind from this chapter called registration? First aspect called your computation of aggregate turnover. Let me come back to my PowerPoint presentation. Okay. Hope you are able to see my PowerPoint presentation. Yes. This is my examination point of view. What is that we need to keep in mind? Computation of aggregate turnover. Examination, 6 marks is your question where 4 marks is a weightage. 4 marks is a weightage for calculation of aggregate turnover. 2 marks is a weightage for drawing your conclusion on the basis of section 22. Please take your working note. Make a point. Reference to page number 9.14. Reference to page number 9.14, where I do calculation of aggregate turnover. I draw my opinion for 2 marks. I draw my conclusion for 2 marks on the basis of a state where this discussion is being done. Institute material has given a couple of examples where to work out, where if I'm an assessee registered in Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Uttarakhand, assuming I'm a person not registered, seeking for registration, I have presence in 4 states. Now, how do you determine your aggregate turnover with reference to special category states? Assuming I'm registered, I'm having business in Karnataka, Bihar, Mizoram. Karnataka, Bihar, Mizoram. Mizoram is special category state for section 22. What is the threshold limit? Refer to your page number 9.14, 10 lakhs. So, if all these 3 states put together aggregate turnover, is exceeding 10 lakhs because one of the state is Mizoram out of 4 special category states. If I'm not in 4 special category states, 20 lakhs is my aggregate turnover threshold limit for section 22. So examination, when you have 6 marks question, 4 marks is the weightage for calculation of your ATO, aggregate turnover. 2 marks is the conclusion, how you draw your conclusion on the basis of your section 22, where your aggregate turnover is to be computed. That is first question. Second, state specific threshold limit. Now this is one specific question where you have a 6 marks question. They'll ask you to determine 40 lakhs specifically dealing with supply of goods, intra-state supply of goods. When we talked about that 40 lakhs, please refer to the conversation. We have 10 states identified, Pondicherry and your Telangana, other than those special category states, were not opted for that 40 lakhs exclusively dealing with goods. Now that is one question where a 2 marks adjustment again linked with your page number 9.14. Take it from me. Examination, definitely there is 1 2 marks question depending on your page number 9.14. Next, there could be a question asked from CTP, casual taxable person and validity. Please explain the provisions relating to casual taxable person, how and when to register, how the taxes need to be deposited, or explain the provisions in relation to casual taxable person, where we will say in relation to casual taxable person, the person has to make an application at least 5 days prior to obtaining registration. That is what we will talk about CTP. Also, we will say In case of a CTP, I have to deposit my tax well in advance as an advance tax. I have to file my returns and claim a refund of that particular tax when my business is over. That is what the provisions we talk about, CTP or NRTP. Then the last point, compulsory registration with respect to intrastate supply of goods alone. Now, this is one important point where we were referring to 10 of 2019 one notification, intrastate supply. There are three exceptions given. One of our friend called Yashoda asked, so why is that you have given why is that this supply of ice cream, pan masala, tobacco products, supply of ice cream, pan masala, tobacco products, and handcraft goods. There is an exception given for these three sectors, and also for handcraft goods, they have given a threshold limit even for interstate supply. Now, this is one question for 2 marks which you can expect from your examination. So friends, with this, we come to the end of our discussion on today's topic for registration. Hope you have understood the basic provisions in relation to registration, computation of aggregate turnover, section 22 read with 24, cancellation, section 29. This is all to do with your examination. We will meet again on 5th, where we will discuss on maintenance of your books of accounts, issuance of a tax invoice, and e-way bill related provisions. So till then, stay safe. Good night. We will meet again on 25th. See you all.